How do you play STEERY? You start by shuffling the character deck and the story deck separately. Each player is dealt 5 story cards. All players must ensure they don't have the end or new character card in their hand. If they do, they must place them randomly in the story deck and draw back up to 5 cards. Next, you choose Player 1. Player 1 draws a character card and reveals it to the group. Player 1 takes a good look at their story cards and plays up to 5 cards to start the story. They improvise around the prompts on their cards to introduce them into the storyline. They might say something like,
"Once upon a time, there was an earthquake so strong that it caused a large ice formation to split from the top of a rocky mountain and roll all the way down to the outskirts of a city. As the ice cap starts to melt in the sun, it reveals the caveman that has been preserved within for thousands of years."
After they've played their cards, Player 1 keeps them aside for scorekeeping and draws back up to 5 cards. The following player now has to play their own story cards to continue the story. They may say something like,
Hunter is now alive again. He decides to go explore the city, but is quickly overwhelmed by how developed today's society is. Its technology is way more advanced than anything he could imagine. He was terrified, and so he ran to the woods where he would hide during the day.
They keep the story cards for scorekeeping and refresh their hand. In a similar fashion, all players contribute to the story in turns. When you play your cards, your storytelling must be between 2 to 4 sentences long. It must move the story forward and must include the entire concept on the cards. Otherwise, other players can object and your contribution can get rejected by a majority vote. If that happens, you shamefully put the cards you played back into your hand and you get no points and no new cards. Players can also reject your storytelling if they feel it's unsuitable for the storyline and you're only abusing the scoring system. So make sure you know your audience well. If you're up and you have no inspiration, you can pass your turn. This allows you to exchange any number of story cards you have for new ones. Just a couple more things. Eventually, one of you will draw a new character card. When you do, announce it to the group, discard it, and draw again. The next player has to draw and reveal a character card, and introduce it in the story on their turn. From then on, all players must include all revealed characters in their storytelling. If they don't, they can get objected to. This can get tricky with too many characters, so if you already have 3 in the story, ignore the new character card and put it back randomly in the deck. Eventually, one of you will also draw the end card. Similarly, announce it, discard it, and draw again. The next player has to end the story on their turn. This card can show up any time, sometimes a bit too early, so you should ignore it and put it back randomly in the deck until you have completed the minimum number of rounds for the number of players. After you end a story, you discard the character cards, but everyone carries over their hand and their points to the next story. The following player, after the story ended, becomes Player 1, they reveal a new character and start a new story. You can keep telling stories until you miss the real world, and the player with the most points at the end of the session wins the game. Finally, you're ready to play STEERY and tell stories that will never be told again. Have fun.